Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. We're continuing our class here on the Chatzar Yosef. We're learning a brand new chapter today, chapter 12. We're on page 177. It's a very short piece here in the Gemara, and really this story is sort of, this one line, I should say, statement in the Gemara, Gitin, is just an aftermath, so to speak, a postscript, if you will, to a story that we learned much earlier, which in this book was chapter 6. And it's known as the story of Chatzar or Bar Chatzar. You remember that story? Very famous story. If you haven't learned it yet, please look back to our old videos. We did those videos probably a couple of years ago, but chapter 6 over there. But if you just look at the Gemara itself, if you want, in Sechet Gitin, I might have to just give you a short, a background on that story, so we know where to go from here. Yeah. So let me just give you a short background. Page 177. But the story, before we start reading here, is the story of Chatzar and Bar Chatzar. What happened over there? This is before the second temple was destroyed. There was a person who was throwing a party. We call him the host. He was throwing a party, and he had two people in his life. One was a great friend, close accomplice, if you will, and the other one was a big enemy. And they had similar names. One of them was, his friend's name was Chatzar, and his enemy's name was Bar Chatzar. Similar names. And he told his assistant, or he told his servant, please go invite Chatzar to the party. And his assistant made a mistake and invited Bar Chatzar, his enemy, to the party. When Bar Chatzar came to the party, yes, I know, yes, just pay attention. When Bar Chatzar came to the party, he thought. There's different reasons, different explanations of why he would even attend, why he would even come to such a party if he had such an enemy. But nevertheless, he showed up, and as soon as the host saw him there, he came over to him, and he said, "Leave immediately." And Bar Chatzar said, "Listen, don't embarrass me like this. If you want, I'll pay for my portion of what I'm eating from your house, and you don't have to feel like you're benefiting me with your possessions at all. I'll pay for my portion. Just keep it quiet, please, and don't make a scene." He said, "Absolutely not. Get out." He said, "Fine, I'll pay for half the party." "No, get out." "I'll pay for the entire party." "No, get out." And he took him by force, took him by hand, and he kicked him out, made a scene, embarrassed him. And after that, Bar Chatzar made a complaint that there was a lot of rabbis, a lot of leaders of the generation there at the party who did not stand up for him and did not stand up for his honor, and at least try to calm the scene down. And he had a big vendetta after that, and he was well connected with the Romans. He went to the Caesar, he complained to the Caesar, he said that the Jews are rebelling against you. He says, "What are you talking about?" And he tells them, "Watch, if you send them an animal, they won't sacrifice the animal." So the Caesar said, "Fine, let's test it." He gave to Bar Chatzar a very nice calf, clean calf. Bar Chatzar on the way there put a blemish in the calf's eye, some say in the calf's mouth. We explained all the depth over there. The details look in chapter 6. But it's a blemish that would make it not fit to be brought on the Bet HaMikdash according to the laws of the Bet HaMikdash. But nevertheless, for the laws of the Goyim, it was kosher. Meaning the Goyim also had their own laws about what's fit for a sacrifice or not, that they made up or whatever it is. So those things were fine according to the Goy law, but according to Bar Chatzar, according to the Jewish law, it was not good. Bar Chatzar knew that, he did it on purpose. He brought it there and to the Bet HaMikdash, and then the Kohanim, led by Rabbi Zachariah, had a whole conundrum of what they should do. Should they sacrifice? Should they not? They said, maybe we should kill him. Should we kill Bar Chatzar so the word doesn't get back? What should we do? They were all stagnant, and Rabbi Zachariah sort of didn't let them do anything, and they didn't bring up the animal, and that led to a huge bloody war and the eventual destruction of the second Bet HaMikdash. Okay, that was basically that famous story, and then we went through some other ones about Onkelos and Titus, and now the Gemara gives like a sort of postscript, like a little, addendum, I like my words today, about this story. It says like this, chapter 12, page 177. In English, it was taught in a Braita is brought down. Rabbi Elazar says, "Come and see how great is," the language of the Gemara is, Koha shel Busha. Koha shel Busha means, look how great is the power of shame. For the Holy One, blessed be He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, assisted Bar Kamsa and destroyed his temple, meaning his with the H, destroyed his own temple, and burned his own sanctuary in the process.
Because he embarrassed someone.
What does this Gemara mean to you? Meaning Bar Kamsa was the one that was embarrassed. And sure, he made a very evil plan to get back at the rabbis in the whole Jewish nation, which ended up destroying the second temple. But look at the Gemara's language. God assisted Bar Kamsa. That's how great the power of shame is. And that is really the name of this chapter, the power of shame. We're going to explore what does it mean, busha? What does it mean, shame? What's the depth of it? And how does it fit in what a Gemara is saying? Sha'ar Chatzar, questions. This is very, very short section over here, short question section and short commentary section. Maybe we could finish the whole chapter today if you guys are good. We'll see. One video, one chapter. Okay, question on this Gemara. What is it about shame that causes such massive repercussions? Why is it so powerful, and what is its origin? Where did shame come from in the first place? Why is it so powerful that it led to God assisting a malevolent person? You like my words today? I'm on point. I'm trying to keep you awake. Right? I don't want to just say bad or evil. You got to throw it in there. Or malevolent, a little bit.
Can you give us a definition what malevolent is?
The way I learned it was any word that has an M-A-L in there, mal, just means bad. In Spanish and Latin, mal means bad. Malnutrition, all this mal just means bad. Okay, anyway, I digress.
Ill wishing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wishing to do bad.
A bunch of words.
Do evil.
Yeah. But God helped him because of this power of shame, because he was so badly shamed. We'll see. Next question. What is meant by our Gemara when it says that Hashem assisted Bar Kamsa? Why would Hashem assist Bar Kamsa if his intentions were mischievous and revengeful?
Because if Hashem didn't want it to happen, it would never happen.
But why does the Gemara have to paint it in this way that God assisted Bar Kamsa? He helped. What do you mean? If it was God's plan to destroy the temple because the Jews deserved it anyway, and as we heard, so just say it like that.
They did.
What do you mean? Anything that happens, bad or good, God did it. God assisted a person that did it. God assisted Hitler.
But this is very specific.
You can't. God assisted anyone that ever did anything.
Correct. But in this case, it's specific. What was the reason? What was the cause? And the cause is, it's saying the
Power of shame.
the power of shame is so bad, and you should never do it to somebody.
God will help assist somebody get
God will
revenge.
take revenge.
Because if that person was shamed, yes. That's what it seems like. That's what it seems like. That's what's part of my question. What is this power of shame that goes so far that God would, quote unquote, as the Gemara says, help, assist such a person? That's my main question. Okay. Amudei Chatzar, the Maharal has a point over here. It says the Maharal, Miprag. The explanation of how Hashem allowed the temple to be destroyed due to shame is as follows. Accepting the fact that Israel was definitely deserving of punishment, Hashem could have meted out their punishment through another fashion other than the destruction of the temple. After all, the temple was the place where Hashem concentrated his own presence in the world, a home of sorts. So why would he have destroyed his own home as punishment for Israel? It was God's house, quote unquote, right? Why did God destroy his own house?
Why was that house there in the first place?
It was there in order to create a connection between the Creator and the created.
Who wanted that connection?
God and the people.
The people
It was
wanted
mutual.
because they wanted God's presence.
It was a marriage.
They wanted God's presence to signify that they were protected, they were the loved ones. So when they misbehaved, Hashem said, you want me, but now I'm going to hide myself. Like he usually does when he punishes us.
I hear you, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's like we said, it's a marriage of sorts. Right?
Correct.
Metaphorically. So imagine a married couple, living in a mansion. Better yet, put it this way. Imagine the guy said to her, when they married her, he said, when we get married, I'm going to build you an enormous palace that you never even dreamed of. And he worked, and he earned, and he built. Okay? And now they're living in the palace. And now imagine, after some time, trouble in paradise, things came up. She's not happy, he's not happy. At the end of the day, he was disloyal to her, put it that way, however you want to define that. And she said, you know what, the heck with this. She took
And
destroyed the house that was built for her. And she ran away and lives now God knows where. But metaphorically, that's almost like what you could say happened over here. Because again, we use the word Shekhinah. Shekhinah means a dwelling place, or a dwelling concentration, force, energy that we describe God's, that we use to describe God's presence in this physical world. His concentrated presence. It is a feminine word. It has feminine Kabbalistic connotations to it, right? And we say that the house, the Beit HaMikdash, housed the Shekhinah. So it's like a palace that we built for our quote-unquote partner in creation, right? And nevertheless, God destroyed it. And now the Shekhinah is also, just like us, is in exile, as we say. The prophets bring down the Gemara. The Shekhinah is in exile as long as we are in exile. It feels it with us to an extent, whatever that means. So the Maharal says, why would this happen? The answer is connected to the Gemara in Bava Metzia 58b that says the following. One who embarrasses his fellow in public has no share to the world to come. You heard this before?
Yes, we did.
It's a very big sin, very big averah to embarrass your friend in public where everyone else sees him. All the blood rushes to his face and then empties really quickly. He gets whitened. The language is called malbin panav. It's called whitening his face in the Gemara. That's what happens. Every human being is created with the distinction of Tzelem Elokim, says the Maharal, the image of God. Right? The human being's template is based on God's template. Arms, legs, 5 extremities, all these things, the face. It's all very mystically correlating to God. Jew or non-Jew alike. Meaning each human has certain godly powers, while the temple is called Beit Elokim, the house of God. Therefore, one who embarrasses another human being is belittling God to an extent and cannot have a portion in the world to come, since it is a place that is all godly and not physical. By embarrassing or shaming another person, right, such as what happened to Bar Kamsa in the story that we just brushed you up on, he is shaming godliness. If you embarrass or shame somebody, you're shaming godliness because every person has the image of God. Which warns that the place that represents godliness, which is the temple, should be destroyed as a result. Midah keneged midah, measure for measure. You shame a godly person, the godly place gets destroyed for. That you benefited from, which is the temple, that godly place gets destroyed from. There is another connection between the creation of the human and the creation of the temple. Namely, both are created with both of God's, I'm going to use this word carefully, hands. Okay? Anytime we associate, I know, but I'm telling you now, anytime we associate an image or a body part of some sort to God, you have to tread very lightly about what you're talking about, right? That's a whole lecture unto its own, what that means.
To ascribe
Yes.
any particular shape or form.
Yes, there's a famous Rambam that says that God is incorporeal, which means he has no image whatsoever. You're not allowed to imagine anything about God because he's not something that your brain can house. Okay, and that's hard, especially try to teaching a little kid, 6-year-old. You're saying a blessing to God. What's God? He created everything. What does he look like? Where is he? What should I think about when I say the bracha? Good question. Nothing. It's difficult, and every kid sort of creates a sort of image in his head of what he thinks God is until he gets to a mature point which says, okay, I can't do this anymore, it's a big problem, and he fixes that. But that's the famous Rambam, that there is no image to God whatsoever, and every time the Torah uses a certain image, a body part about him, it's just a metaphoric way for us to understand a certain attribute or power of his, and that is the mainly accepted answer. But there are deeper understandings in the mystical world, world of Kabbalah, how each one of his, what we call body parts, again, it corresponds to a certain sphira, a certain managing system that God uses and creates to operate the world, basically, as we will see much more as the book goes on. Nevertheless, says to the Maharal, God, that both man and both man and the temple were created with both of God's hands, as it is written in the reference to the temple. Is a pasuk that says, "The sanctuary, O Lord, your hands have established. it's hard to read it in English, but because we say this pasuk every day. It's pasuk Shemot 15:17. It's in Az Yashir Moshe. It's in Az Yashir. Migdash Hashem kunenu yadecha. That's what it is. Migdash Hashem kunenu yadecha, which means the temple, God, Hashem, your hands have established. And in reference to the creation of man, it says, David HaMelech writes, front and back you have restricted me, and you lay your palm upon me. Famous pasuk, that's in Tehillim 139:5. Achor v'kedem, I forget the next word. Look up over there, I don't have it here in Hebrew. All the creations were created through God's speech, but Adam was created through God's hands, based on this pasuk in Tehillim. Right? The verse says that your palm, God, you have placed upon me, and you're creating me. What that means, we'll see. Thus, shaming man causes the temple to be destroyed because these two are one. The temple and man have a deep connection with each other. What is it? Yitzartani? Yeah. Yitzartani, yeah. I think I have a typo here. Front and back it should be you have formed me. No?
Yitzartani means
Yitzar, like the Yitzarara?
You have behest me behind.
Yeah, there's going to be like 100 different translations on that word.
And you laid your hand upon me.
Yeah, that part I got right. You laid your hand, your palm. Your hand, palm. Okay, anyway, we see the point that God sort of put more effort, so to speak, if I can use that term, borrow that term, to explain that God put more attention, put it that way, in creating the temple and man, right? Because he actually put his hands on it. Whereas everything else in the world was created through God's speech. Let there be, let there be, let there be, as it says in Bereshit. Right? That's it's more of a distant way of creating. Let there be. Whereas man and the temple was through God's hands.
Meaning what though?
Meaning he
was
spent his...
involved in the
The simplest way to explain it is that those two things were the centerpieces of the whole creation.
Meaning
The most important part. Sure, not more involved, but more interested in those things. Put it that way. Okay. So therefore, if you shame one, you also affect the other. You shame man, you're affecting the temple. That's how the Maharal explains it. Iyun Yaakov now says the following. Hashem assisted Bar Kamta insofar as if it were not for Hashem's divine intervention, the rabbis would have gone ahead with one of their proposed plans.
which is killing him.
Either killing Bar Kamta or offering the blemished animal that Bar Kamta brought on behalf of the Caesar.
Both sins.
Right, they were going back and forth whether they should bring up the animal. At the end of the day,
Killing him was not a sin.
what?
Killing him was not a sin.
Okay, because he was a Moser. No, he was Rodef and Moser. He was a traitor, pretty much. But at the end of the day, still, it wouldn't have.
Killing God's creation.
So what?
Rabbi Zechariah had an argument for why that shouldn't be done. Okay, that's chapter 6. I don't want to go too much into that. But at the end of the day, those are the two options on the table, and neither one was taken. Why? It says Iyun Yaakov, because Hashem intervened and he assisted Bar Kamta that he shouldn't be killed, and that the animal shouldn't be brought up, so that his plan should come to fruition. Going through with one of these plans would have deterred the destruction of the temple, right? As we said before.
Okay, bringing the blemished animal is Doraita. You cannot do that.
Okay, I don't want to get into that. It's chapter 6. At the end of the day, in order to save so many lives, you can do anything to save lives.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we spoke about that in chapter 6. Okay. Good, so that's all the commentary on that piece. So let's start the Chatzar Yosef. We have a few minutes, right? It's 10:17. Okay. Page 178, the Chatzar Yosef. We'll see the depth that I would like to share with you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this today. Let's go through at least 2 pages and then maybe next week we'll finish it off. Now, the Maharal alluded to the mystical connection between the creation of man and the temple. Right? We just spoke about that. He is referring to the common blueprint that they share.
Wait, I'm just curious. Was this all the answers you could get, or this? Because this is a very small.
Yeah, that's all that was available on this particular small Gemara. Yeah, I mean, of the main sources that I looked at. If you keep looking, I'm sure you'll find lesser known sources. Okay, he is referring to the common blueprint that they share. That being the structure of where we're about to learn. It's called, again, it's a little bit on the deeper side, which we Sfaradim love because we're Sfaradim. The Samech comes first. That's Sod. That's the secrets of the Torah. This structure of the 10 Sefirot. Okay? We provided a glimpse into how the structure and decor of the temple correspond to the Sefirot as well in the Chatzar Yosef in chapters 10, section 3. Over there we spoke about how each part of the temple, the candelabra, the menorah, the shulchan, the ark, the curtain, all these things represent the 10 Sefirot as well. It is a fundamental that the blueprint of the human is in direct correspondence with the structure of the 10 Sefirot, okay? Now what are the 10 Sefirot? Again, let me just give you, a quick introduction. I actually have a picture of it all the way in the back of the diagram for your brain to better understand it in page 527, right? This is the famous mystical diagram that you'll find pretty much anywhere, explaining what these, some glimpse of what they are. Basically, they are the lights. Okay, let's look at the picture maybe. You see how on top there's it's open on top?
Yes.
That's for the light to pour in. Okay, before that comes what's called the Ein Sof, which is no end, the infinite, unimaginable power and light of the oneness of God. Okay? That's beyond what any human can understand. There's nothing can be understood from there. Once that light starts getting poured in and gets more condensed, and with the intent of eventually creating a physical existence that has limits in it, such as we live in, right? That light needs to be condensed. And it starts getting condensed through the 10 Sefirot. That's the first place. That's the highest world of the 4 worlds, Atzilut. The 10 Sefirot exist in Atzilut. We are all the way down, right? So, the 10 each have a name, and they trickle down, so to speak, like a pipe system. And each one has a certain power, energy, function that takes the light and pushes it, condenses it, pushes it down further until you get to the very end. I guess you can look at it that way. Okay? What are they? These are the correlations that I'm going to tell you and how they correlate to the human body. Because I'm trying to tell you the human body is a blueprint to this. I'm sorry. We're not a blueprint. The 10 Sefirot are the blueprint to us. It came before us. The correlation is this. Keter, which means crown, is the place right outside the head, in the area right above the anterior fontanelle. Anterior fontanelle is right here where your 3 skull bones meet. You have a parietal bone, and frontal bone. They meet in this one spot, which we end up calling the anterior fontanelle. When a baby's born, it's very soft. Okay, it's also called a bregma. I think it's a Greek word, or maybe Latin. But it's a very soft part there. Why is it soft there? Because when the baby's coming out of the birth canal, it needs to be very flexible. It's very constricted there. So it allows the head to bend, to contract right on that soft spot, and the bones slide over each other in order for it to facilitate for its birth to come out. That's also why a lot of babies, when they're born, their heads look deformed and weird. You gotta wait a few months for them to look like a regular human being. Well, for everything to sort of come back to place. It's a really beautiful system God created.
Amazing. It's amazing.
So C-section baby got good-looking heads.
I guess theoretically, I don't know. I've never seen one, but okay. So, also, this is the place where we put the tefillin shel rosh, right on that spot. Okay, that's the connector to spiritual realms beyond you. It's through that place, keter, crown. Chokhmah is the next sefirah down. That's the right side of the brain. Binah is the next sefirah down. That's the left side of the brain. But also, the Binah is deeply connected with the heart. A lot of books you'll find that Binah is the heart. In other books you'll find that it's the brain. So the way you settle it is that it's the left side of the brain and the heart. Look at note number 1. This is why the heart is situated on the left side of the chest. You ever think about why is the heart? Why did God create it more on the left side? Why is it not that center, right side? It's on the left, and it's major arteries that come out of the heart. They travel a shorter distance to the left side of the brain then to the right side of the brain. Again, I had the pleasure of, or the opportunity of seeing these arteries firsthand, when I was in school. And I can tell you, the left arteries are closer because it's on the left side, right? The right, the branch that comes off the main branch from the heart that goes to the right is longer because it's more further away, and it goes to the right side of the brain. It's a bigger distance. Why is that? What does that teach us? Because the connection between the left side of the brain and the heart is closer than with the right side. So I'm trying to tell you, the Binah, Sefirah Binah, is left side of the brain and the heart. This is because in the deeper wisdom, Binah devolves into and essentially opens up into Tiferet. That's the next Sefirah, which correlates to the torso and the vital organs of the body, which are ruled by the heart. So
is Chokhmah and Da'at.
Chokhmah and Binah in the brain. Tiferet is down here, the chest.
Okay, and why? But I'm saying, if you look at the diagram, a lot of things touch the figure.
They touch, but
the center
but the main
goes out of there. Remember that everything is being
So how?
distributed.
Why is it from Bina? Why is from Bina?
Binah is the main. Again, this is a very crude diagram. You're not gonna have all the details of how it works in here.
Usually, also when you say the order, you say Chokhmah Bina Da'at.
No, Da'at is a pseudo Sefirah. It's not a Sefirah unto its own. Da'at is part of Keter. It's the lowest part of Keter that's the most understandable to us. So, because if you count Da'at, it's going to be 11. Da'at is part of Keter. That's why it's within the same structure, right? So, Binah is what devolves down. That's called mother. She's the one that gives birth, so to speak, to the rest of the physical world. And the king of the physical world is Tiferet. Okay? It opens up, so to speak. It's you know how it's understood? They call it du partsufin. Du means two in Aramaic, I believe, or in other languages. A lot of languages du means two.
And
In Bahrain it means two.
Farsi.
Yeah. So du is Dalet Vav. Dalet Vav is, if you look at it, if you shrink the Vav, you can create a Hey.
Yeah.
Dalet Vav, right? The Hey is the second Hey of Hashem's name. Yud, then Hey, and then Vav, and then Hey. Second Hey of Hashem's name is Binah. That one opens up into, just like the Dalet and Vav open up, right? It goes from the Hey into Du. Same thing here. The Binah opens up into the Tiferet. In that sense. It's hard to explain these things. It's really hard.
No, it actually makes sense.
Okay, let's go further. So, we spoke about Chokhmah and Binah.
We gotta get to Chesed and Geburah.
Chesed is the next one. Chesed is the right arm, right? The right arm gives. Gevurah in strength, it means courage, it means limiting, restricting. That's the left arm. Okay, Tiferet is the torso, and that's holding all the vital organs of the body. It's the perfect balance between Chesed and Gevurah, as we'll learn later. And it's also deeply connected to the heart. Netzach is the next one. That's the right leg, but it's also deeply connected to the right kidney. Hod is the left leg, and also connected to the left kidney. Yesod is the reproductive organ in the middle of the legs. And the final one is Malchut, which is the end of that very organ, the male organ, and beyond. Right, the crown of that organ.
Why male? It's not like unisex type of thing?
Not necessarily, no.
This is male.
Yeah.
With spirituality, we're dealing with male. We got the obligations.
I was just asking why.
We have the obligations
Of
keeping the contract.
procreating? Or?
It applies to women as well. They have a yesod, but it's not the same type of yesod. It's hidden. It's within.
They're the receptor.
It's
of
within.
the
But yes, they're the receptor of all this energy. Right? So now again, yesod is the male organ, and the end of that, the crown of that organ is called, that you could see after you do Brit Milah, right? That's called the Malchut, and beyond that as well. Like meaning the next generation that's created from there.
That's the future.
That's Malchut and onwards, okay? The next world, so to speak.
And then the cycle continues.
Because again, this blueprint of these 10 continues and it reflects into every world below that, like a chain.
Mirroring itself.
Yes, that's why when a man has a child, he's also having all the same organs. The child has all the same organs. It looks like you. It has the same 10 sefirot. And when he has a child, his malchut continues into the next. You understand? Into the next world. Each human being is a world.
These sefirot get diluted as the generations go?
Yes, definitely.
No, they don't get diluted.
You mean from people?
They repeat it.
No, okay. In the actual upper worlds, yes, they get diluted as you go down. But you're saying
I'm saying this because it's copied on, whatever, it's DNA, it's copied onto
it's a blueprint of a human being. So
it's copied onto the next, so that next human being after the first one, is it less of the sefirot?
When you light a candle,
no, it's not. It's just.
Is the light reduced?
Hold on. I was just trying to give you an example of God puts a lot of examples in this world of how the world works in order for us to understand the upper world a little bit. So just like here, I'm just giving you the comparison. Just like here, when you have a child, right? He has all the same organs as you, and therefore he also is activating has the power to activate all 10 sefirot. Just like you, same thing in the upper world. One world, quote unquote, gives birth to the next, and onward. They all have 10 sefirot like that, just reflected.
Just like cell duplication.
Because a reflection isn't a dilution at all.
No.
It's a reflection, but it's also a refraction. Again, this is all borrowed words. Don't harp on the words. It's all very borrowed because this is all spiritual, which it's difficult even to talk about it. We're using physical boxes of words to explain spiritual phenomena.
Reflection and refraction. So if you refract,
don't go to the T. It's just a word. It's just a word.
Okay, can I take that for a second?
This is not actual, science. Yeah.
If there would be dilution, we would be gone already. This is duplication, just like a cell. Is it concept?
People, yes, but in the spiritual worlds, there is a dilution, if you want to call that, of the spiritual power and energy as you go from the upper worlds to the lower worlds. It gets more and more diluted, so to speak, and more condensed. More physicality takes over, less light. The light gets harder to see. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Only if we don't study as much as
you can see through the generations.
Again, I'm not talking through the generations, but also in generations, there's a concept called Yeridat Derot. It's called the generations get less and less spiritual over time. That's also true. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say there is a connection, yes. Meaning, what's the four worlds? There's Atzilut, Bria, Abia, Yetzirah, Asiya. All four of those worlds have something of a 10 sefirot. The original ones are in the top one, Atzilut. And the next ones, they are not called the same, they have different things. There's different types of angels that take place of those. Then there's different energy. In this world, there's different like energies, like fire, water. Fire is Gevurah, water is Chesed, you understand? That's the manifestation of the Chesed that came from all the way up there. After it got diluted and reflected many times over. Right? Following? Good. Okay. Certain people in this world that really represented and embodied one of the sefirot, like Avraham was Chesed, Yitzchak was Din, etc. Yosef is Yesod, David is Malchut, all these things.
I read a thing where
like the Sukkot thing, yeah.
The attribute of Hashem, like the Chesed, was jealous when Avraham Avinu was like, I don't have a job anymore. Like he took my job. That's
interesting.
It was a midrash or something, but
yeah.
It was like a.
That's very deep. That requires analysis. It's very connected to what we're saying. Okay, so now that we've said all that, Malchut is the end of the organ and beyond, reaching down from the overall supernal structure. Thus, as the Maharal said, shaming one's fellow is a shaming of the supernal structure that we just described, which the temple intimately resembles as well. Hence, the result of shaming man is the destruction of the temple. We said the temple itself, we said it previously in the book, the temple also, each one of the things in the temple represents one of the sefirot. It's also the same human body structure. Okay? Just to go quickly, Chokhmah and Binah, what are those things? Those are the cheruvim that were above the Ark of the Covenant. The actual Ark inside is Keter, where the Torah is. Okay? When you go outside of the Parochet, out of that room was a curtain. And the curtain was separated between those three and the lower seven. And just like anywhere else, there's a separator between the upper three and the lower seven. A very important concept. The upper three are thought realm, the lower seven are physical realm. The upper three are thought realm. What's that separator in the human body? The neck. The neck separates the upper three, Keter Chokhmah Binah, from the lower seven, the rest. That's why the neck is so important. Without the neck, you have nothing. That's why if you want to destroy everything, God forbid, you slaughter someone in the neck, you destroy all connection. That's where the shechita happens. You understand? Again, what else do I want to say? Going back to the Beit HaMikdash, once you come out of come out of the curtain, what do you have? On the right side, you have the menorah. The menorah is light, chesed, giving, right? On the left side, you have the shulchan. The shulchan is parnasah, it's din. That's givurah. You understand?
I would have thought it would have been Parnasah. Why would Parnasah be?
Because it's deen.
Din. Everyone gets the judgment of how much you get money.
Life, you will be prosperous, you will have food for your family, or you will not. That is
Why is
judgment.
Because you said fire, Kabbalistically, is Gevura, and the menorah is
It's a good point, but it's not, that's a good point, but this is a ner. A ner, a candle, is a specific type of fire. It's a very controlled fire. Very controlled, that gives light. It's light, that's the main thing. You have to focus on the light. The light is chesed. But it's a good point. The middle of that, there was a small altar, Mizbach Zahav, the golden altar where they brought the incense, Ketorah, that's Tiferet. Then when you go out, when you go outside, you have the big Mizbeach, that's Yesod. That's what they call Yesod the Mizbeach. Netzach and Hod, I'm still doing some investigation. I think I found it last time. Netzach and Hod, you could argue a few things what it is. A much lesser known part of the temple. But you see, it's the same structure from the inside of the Holy of Holies out to the outside room, which is Yesod. And Malchut is like just the whole courtyard altogether that embodies everything. Okay, next thing over here. Even though it was already decreed that the temple will be destroyed, there was still a level of assistance that Hashem gave to Bar Kamta. Since Hashem could have brought about the destruction through some other means, not necessarily through the story of Bar Kamta. He could have done it however he wanted. Making it happen through Bar Kamta meant that Hashem had to assist him in the sense that he prevented any derailments of Bar Kamta's plot. He let his plan work out, as the Iyun Yaakov wrote. To explain why Hashem assisted Bar Kamta, we could venture to say that at the moment of the rabbis considered killing him when he came there to the Beit HaMikdash, Bar Kamta automatically attained the status of what we call a nirdaf. What's nirdaf? A person being pursued. When you run after somebody, he's called a nirdaf, right? About whom it is written the following pasuk. It says in Kohelet, "Ma she'haya kvar hu, kvar hu." This is a very deep verse, man. We don't have time to explain this, but let's see. "Ma she'haya kvar hu, va'asher liot kvar haya, v'ha'elohim yevakesh et nirdaf." Translation: what was already is, and that which will be already was. And God will always seek the pursued. That's the point. God, once a person gets a status of being sought, a run after, a nirdaf, Hashem helps him. That's the rule of the world.
If someone has a status of
A nirdaf.
Pursued
by what? By
by
cops?
enemies, by whatever.
By anybody.
What if it's
He has a certain siyat d'shmaya.
pursued by fame? What if he's pursued by bad things or good things?
No. Physically pursued. Someone's trying to kill him. Will run after him. Yeah, not metaphorically.
Okay, God will always seek the pursued, meaning He will help the pursuing person. Like
The one who's running away, God's gonna help him.
help the Melech, I
Yeah.
guess.
But
Kohelet was written by
by Shlomo Melech, his
I'm
son.
saying that the guy was trying to. Shlomo was his.
His son.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to explain this verse here, and then we'll call it a day, guys, because we have a lot more to do. We're not finished. We're trying to explain this verse. Let's read it one more time. Ma shaya kvar hu, that which was already is. Va'asher liyot, and that which will be, kvar haya, already was. V'ha'elohim yevakesh et nirdaf, and God will always seek the pursued. These captivating words of King Shlomo rivets the thinking faculties. In other words, it makes you start thinking. Rashi explains in his commentary to this verse that the rules of the system that Hashem placed in the world is that Hashem always favors the one being pursued, being run after.
The underdog.
Just the underdog. Just as Esav pursued Yaakov, and Yaakov was saved from the hands of Esav, remember that? And just as Israel was saved from the Egyptians who pursued them into the sea. The same formula will apply in the future at the climax of history. However, these examples that Rashi brings are very one-sided. Now, that's exactly what he wrote. That Esau was running after Yaakov, the Egyptians were running after Israel. That's what Rashi writes. But they seem very one-sided, with the wicked ones always chasing the righteous. Esau running after Yaakov, Egyptians after Israel. Right? Are we okay? Almost done. It seems from a simple reading of the verse, we may derive that the same formula is true no matter who is chasing whom. And it seems Rashi would not necessarily disagree with this approach. It seems the verse should be understood the following way. What was, that which was, meaning even if someone made a mischievous choice in the past, he's Rasha, it already is and it cannot be removed from history. But that which will be, meaning the punishment that this person is going to get for those evil choices, already was.
What does that mean?
In other words, this person will be dealt with appropriately by God. His punishment is waiting for him. To God, we can say he already dealt with him, since God is outside the bounds of time.
Okay.
So you can use past tense by God, even though it's a future thing.
For us.
But at the present time, from the perception of man, for us, we're stuck in the present. All of that is irrelevant. All of that is irrelevant, because the rule is the end of the verse, and the God will always seek the pursued, even if the pursued is an evil person.
Wait a minute. The way that's written, that's not what it means.
You could, if you read it again, let's read it again.
What does that have to do with?
I'm trying to show you. So I'm trying to show you. Look.
Always seek the pursued.
The first part of the verse is like this: Mashaya, that which was, kvarhu. It already happened. Which means if somebody made a sin and he's a sinner, it already happened. It's in the past. Va'asher liyot, but that which will be, meaning his punishment that he's going to get for that.
What's already happened?
Kvar haya, already happened. Meaning you can consider it already done. Why? Because God will always be just.
What's the last part of the verse? It seems out of it.
Right? And the last part of the verse is, meaning the first part of the verse was all in God's, from God's perception. Mm-hmm. The last part of the verse is from man's perception.
How does it connect?
That from our perception, look, we can't tell who's a Rasha, who's Tzaddik. From our perception, we can only look at what's happening now. And what's happening now, the guy's running away. They're trying to kill the guy. And he's running away, 10 people are running after him trying to kill him. That's all I see right now from my man's perspective, my limited human perspective. Right? And since that's the case, God will take the side of the pursuant of the one being pursued at that moment. That's my way of explaining the verse. You don't have to agree.
No. Basically,
Yeah.
to God, it's present is past, future is, but
That's the
for us,
first.
it's chronological. We see it as it's a timeline.
Right. So right now, the guy who looks evil, who looks bad, who looks good. The one running away looks like he's the innocent one. Looks like, right? Mm-hmm. So the lesson here is that even if the person has bad intentions, if he is pursued in the present situation right now, he's being run after, he has God on his side by default. This can readily be understood when considering the common case. Give me a common example. You're a father, right? Common example of a father with many children. Baruch Hashem. When all but one child join forces in a scuffle or a fight against one, right? Even if that one child was indeed to blame, he started everything. And we know that. Still, in the moment, the father's mercy will be activated and he will defend that one child against his siblings. It's a knee-jerk reaction. You understand? Even though we know he deserves it. There's 5 kids versus 1. Okay, guys, step back for a second. Let me deal with it myself. Right? Later on, the father may do some investigation and chastise and punish the child when he learns that he was truly the culprit. So too, Hashem assisted Bar Kamsa in the moment against the rabbis who considered killing him. Then he dealt with him according to his deeds later on, as he saw fit with Bar Kamsa. Generally, the party that is outwardly aggressive and or violent in a confrontation appears to be the one causing the problem in the moment, even though the other party may be truly the one to blame for the whole situation. In any conflict, if one knows that the objective truth is undoubtedly on his side, there is no need for him to be aggressive. If you know you're right, why do you have to get into, you're arguing with somebody, and you know based on your 100% knowledge what you're saying is correct and what he's saying is nonsense. Why would you have to get violent? How is it going to help anything? If you know the truth, you shouldn't have to. Right? On the other hand, when one tries to push what he knows deep down is a lie, he must be aggressive and force his ideology onto others in order to justify that lie, as history has proven. This is why Judaism is not a missionary religion. There's no obligation or pressing need for us to accumulate converts from the Gentile nations, because we assuredly live in the haven of truth with the company of Hashem's Torah. Some of the other major religions throughout history, however, forced others, especially Jews, on pain of torture and death, to convert to their man-made religions. That's one way to make others believe the lie, right? Convert or I'll kill you. Oh, okay, fine, you're right. Yeah, you're 100% right, sure. That's what they had to do. The stewards of truth must be eliminated for the misrepresentation of the truth to reign supreme, which means if a person wants to push a lie, you got to get rid of the truth sayers, because they're going to be your opposition. Cool. Good. Okay. Let's stop there for today. B'ezrat Hashem will continue next week. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen. Amen. I forgot we're using your phone here. I'm sorry. Maybe you're waiting for a phone call.